Well, hey, welcome to our Calvin University Facebook live stream during Leadercast 2020. We're glad that you could join us. And joining us on this break is Dr. Cheryl Branson, and she's the provost at Calvin University. And we wanted her to share some of her challenges and some of her experiences through this disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, Dr. Branson, thanks for joining us. What's been the biggest challenge for you in your work as a leader at Calvin University?
Yeah, there are so many. I think the biggest challenge has been, at least of late, is planning when we don't know what to plan for. Of course, we never really know what the future holds. But we normally go about our days thinking we do. And so we plan more or less thinking that at least for the next 6 months or a year, we know where we're going. But now we have really been reminded of how vulnerable we are to these things, how outside of our control so many things are. So that charade of being in control is over. And so with that fullness and with that kind of full awareness, then it's all of these what ifs and just really knowing that at any minute, the best laid plans can go awry. And I think part of what makes that particularly difficult is that, of course, that just makes so many people anxious, including myself. But it just feels like there's so much more anxiety, if you will, in the air to absorb because of the uncertainty that's going on. People aren't always their best selves when anxious, including me. But I would say the biggest challenge is just not knowing exactly what to plan for.
Yeah, thanks. That's I guess we're all dealing with that uncertainty and that anxiety, and it's good to think about the impact that has on our ability to move forward as leaders. As you deal with all that uncertainty, I'm sure you found some positives. And what's one positive thing that you've experienced in the midst of this whole disruption?
Yeah, I think one of the largest positive things is realizing, experiencing, observing that people are resilient and creative, far more so than we often imagine. I just think about moving all of our students and our faculty to online teaching and learning, within days. People rose to that challenge. It was just amazing to see the ways in which people adapted, to see the ways in which people helped each other, took time out of their own crazy busy days to help somebody with a technical question, a how-to question. Likely if this had not happened, it would have taken us probably 10 years, just a guess, to get here to online teaching and learning if we were waiting for the right time to do it. And even for the people who, among us who I often think of as being perfectionists in the most healthiest of ways, I hear them saying things like, you know what, this is good enough for now, or this is good enough to move on, good enough to move forward with. And that's kind of a refreshing thing to hear in this community, because we're so set on getting things perfect that it sometimes stalls us. So, people are resilient and creative, and I'm just so grateful every day that we have so many good people to do this work with. It's hard work, and yet when I look around the campus at the faculty and staff who are all digging deep into this, just so grateful for the ways in which we can do this work together.
Yeah, thanks. It seems like adversity really does tend to bring out the best in people, and it's great to hear that. Of course, we're not quite sure what lies ahead and what a new normal is going to look like when we reach it, but when this thing is mostly in the rearview mirror, what's one thing that you're most looking forward to?
Yeah, I am most looking forward to, I think, being in meetings, leading meetings, where I can actually see the people around the table. I think I've come to realize just how much I rely on being able to read the room when leading a meeting, noticing when people are agreeing or not agreeing, noticing when people are confused, detached, bored, unhappy, crying perhaps, um, noticing how the people around the table are clicking or not clicking as a team. I miss those cues terribly, and I look forward to having those back. Leading a meeting where you see just a little, 1 by 1 inch photo of people on a screen, or sometimes if it's a large group, just seeing little tiles with initials. Just there's just so much lost in being able to understand and being able to care for the people in the meeting. So when I think about what I'm looking forward to, I think it's that of just being able to be in meetings where we can see the people around the table and pay attention to where people are at in that conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good one. We do our minds and our bodies are really tuned to process all of those cues and all that feedback, and you don't tend to get that in these video versions of the Hollywood squares that we're that we're using for work these days. So
Right,
well,
right,
thank
exactly.
you for that. I just again want to thank you, Dr. Cheryl Branson, Provost at Calvin University, for joining us, and thank all of you for joining us for this break on our Calvin University Facebook live stream. And we hope you come back and join us for more of these breaks, and also enjoy the rest of your day with Leadercast 2020. Thanks again. All right, welcome to Facebook Live and the Calvin University. We're glad you joined our stream, and we're going to talk on this break with Tarita Johnson, who's the director of our Career Center at Calvin University. And Tarita, I'd love to just ask you, what's been the biggest challenge for you as a leader during these last 6 weeks?
I think the balance of working in home. I have two little ones who are also doing homeschool at the same time that I have a lot of virtual meetings. And I find myself just sitting in the same spot for a lot of hours. So just being mindful of the self-care that's needed and the mental break that's needed has been a challenge. I usually have meetings a lot, but I'm usually walking around, interacting with people in person. So that has been one of the greatest challenges for me.
Great, thanks. Also, you think about all of the disruptions. What's one positive that you've experienced during the last 6 weeks?
I love the innovation that has come from this. Just to see the creativity within my own team, as well as external collaborations with other career centers, has been just a joy for me to see people giving in ways. We're getting up to speed virtually, and I'm finding that everything that we do live, we can do virtual. And that has been a tremendous blessing.
That's great. That's great. Thanks. We're all looking forward, obviously, to kind of getting through this and getting to the other side. And I'm curious, when this really all is in the rearview mirror for us, what's the one thing that you're most looking forward to that you can't do now?
I would love to be able to see my colleagues. And I know that this is a COVID world now afterwards, but I want to give some hugs. I want to connect with people. I want to look in the eyes. Like, I really miss being able to touch people at that level, eye contact, and just see how people are doing. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great. Thanks, Tarita.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks again for joining Calvin University on this Facebook live stream event. We're hoping that you'll join us on some of our future breaks throughout the day, and we hope that you're really enjoying Leadercast 2020 in a virtual way this year. Thanks for joining us. joining us on this break is Ken Erfmeyer, who's a vice president of advancement at Calvin University. And Ken, I want to start off by asking you this question. What's been the biggest challenge to your leadership during this pandemic?
So in the advancement division, I think the biggest challenge slash opportunity is how do we stay near, dear, and clear to our constituents during this period? And then also, how do we be sensitive to their needs and not be tone deaf to this environment? And so I think, at least for myself and many of my colleagues, we've really had to do athletic listening to make sure that we're listening to our constituents in terms of what their needs are.
Great. Yeah, it's a lot of work listening in this new reality of communication electronically. During the disruption, I think we've all experienced negatives and things that we've lost, but tell us about one positive thing that you've learned or that you've experienced.
I would say sort of two positive things that I've experienced is on the professional level. I actually have had some constituents that have started FaceTiming me every other week because they're really longing for that conversation. And so I would say I've actually been able to deepen relationships with some individuals. And then on a personal basis, we've enjoyed sort of the family meals that we've had together, which we hadn't done really previously. So that's been a real positive.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It really has changed the way that we manage some of our relationships. When this is all behind us and we return to maybe something more like a normal life, what are you most looking forward to?
Well, for me personally, I'm a real sports fan, and basically the two things I watch on TV are news and sports. And I'm getting plenty of news these days, but I'm really looking forward to seeing some live professional sports back on TV and for the baseball season to start.
Thanks. Yeah, there's so many sports fans, and of course, one of our speakers in Leadercast today is Magic Johnson. So. Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to some live sports, but thank you for joining us, Ken Erfmeyer, Vice President of Advancement for Calvin University, and thanks to all of you for joining us on this Facebook live stream break from Calvin University, and we hope you enjoy the rest of Leadercast and join us for future breaks. Thanks. Hey, welcome to Calvin University and our Facebook live stream. And we're glad that you're joining us on this break from Leadercast 2020, where we're having the chance to talk to some of our leaders from Calvin University and learn more a little bit about their experience with the disruption of this recent crisis that we're all experiencing. So I want to introduce to you today Bill Corner, and Bill is the Director of Campus Safety at Calvin University, a very important job. And we've asked him to join us to tell us a little bit about his experience. So welcome, Bill. And I'm going to ask you just what has been really the biggest challenge to your leadership in the last 6 weeks of this experience?
You know, I would say that the biggest challenge for me has been that there's really been no playbook on how to handle a situation like a pandemic. We're in what I would consider uncharted territory. Subsequently, for me, as a leader, I haven't been able to call on necessarily any single educational event or work event in my life, but I've had to recall a number of things and utilize those in my leadership through this pandemic. Some of the things that I struggle with as a leader is communication out to people, especially since now most of it's done electronically and not face-to-face. So as a result, there are times where I struggle with how much is too much and how much is not enough. I don't want to add to confusion. I want to make sure that what I communicate is being done so effectively. And then on the flip side, making sure that I'm listening well. I think that when you're constantly barraged by information day after day from all kinds of sources, both internally and externally, it can get lost in that noise of constant email, constant face-to-face meetings on the internet, phone calls, all those things. There's just a lot of information coming quickly, and it's easy to miss stuff that could be essential. So how do I be a good listener so that I'm catching those important pieces of information that I need to do my job?
Yeah, thanks for that. You're right. Both the nature and the volume of communication has changed dramatically, and it's a challenge to leaders and followers alike. As we think about the disruption, and there's a lot of things that may have changed that we don't like. Can you think of one positive thing that you've learned or experienced during this pandemic that you don't want to lose sight of?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of probably the best things that have come out of this is just seeing that people, when they work together, they can accomplish a lot of things that you didn't know what kind of hidden talent someone had in their day-to-day job before this pandemic happened. So we have lots of smart people who have great ideas, and through a situation like this, they've been able to take some of those things that were in their heads and bring them out into the light of day, and we've been able to utilize those things. And along with that is some technologies that, for me, as someone who's a little bit older, in terms of I didn't grow up with technology my whole life. It's something I've learned as an adult. There's things that I might have shied away from before, but because of the situation we're in now, I learned to use them and even embrace them. And now we use them on a daily basis to help manage what we're doing here at Calvin University.
That's great. Thanks. Yeah, I think we're all finding there's maybe some advantages to some of these new tricks we're learning, and hopefully we'll be able to use them well in the future. And speaking of the future, when this is all mostly behind us and we return to maybe a more normal, what are you most looking forward to?
Well, a couple things. One thing is not having to wear these all the time. And I think the other thing I'm really looking forward to, I'm a face-to-face person. I like to interact with people, and I think the thing I'm looking forward to most is being able to see colleagues face-to-face again, and to be able to see students face-to-face and interact with them. That is something that not only do I miss, but I know my staff misses that. Not being able to have a regular kind of staff meeting. Those kinds of things you take for granted until you can't do them, and then you really realize how much you miss that human element that is part of what we do. It's essential for us, I think, as people, to have that face-to-face interaction with others.
Thank you. Yeah, we were made to be together physically, and
absolutely,
I think we all miss that. Well, thank you, Bill Corner, Director of Campus Safety at Calvin University, for joining us on this Facebook live stream break. And thanks to all of you, too, for joining us at Calvin University for this Leadercast 2020. We hope that you enjoy it and you learn from it and you're able to use it to improve your leadership. So thanks again for joining us.